into churches to sell anything. Just a reminder, we go in to talk about ministry partnerships. And of course, there is support to be found in all of that. A third area, a target market, if you will, a strategic target, would be foundations. We can drill down with you more in your context about approaching foundations in your area, but we're talking here largely, but not exclusively, about grants, obviously, from local foundations. The first thing is do your research. A key question and an obvious one, you would have thought of this yourself, is does the foundation give to faith-based organizations? Unless you see their track record and get a sense of that, you'll have no way to know. So if they do not, as a matter of principle and practice, give to faith-based organizations, it's not that we dismiss them, it's just that obviously we know the answer going in. So let's be wise in that regard. Research will show you that. Steward your time well. Second thing is we approach foundations like we approach major donors. It's through relationship. So questions are like these. Who serves, your research will show you, who serves on the foundation board? Or maybe there's an allocations panel that's point of responsibility is to vet organizations that may receive a grant from that particular foundation. Who's on that? And then the question turns to your board. Who do you know on the foundation board? Who do you know on the vetting task force or the committee? And then what we're going to ask our board member to do, not to manipulate, but to introduce, we're going to ask that individual to invite that person on the foundation board to lunch or to a coffee and bring you along, or your designated staff member, to make that introduction. Pretty important to build those kinds of relationships. Thirdly, a rule of thumb is know their process. Here's kind of how it works with foundations. Get in line. It may be a few years. Stay in line. You do that through relationship. And then move up in the line. So that's just kind of how we approach foundations. It's not instantaneous. It is cultivation, and there can be funding cycles. Fourthly, there are, again, multiple decision makers from place to place. Research is going to show you the structure of every foundation. While there may be multiple decision makers, I would also say to you, just parenthetically, that there is value. Not always value in going to the corner office, but with foundations, there can be real value in asking, if for nothing else, calling the foundation and just, as the executive director probably, and just saying, hey, could I come over for about 15 minutes and just hang out with you? I'd love to just introduce myself, tell you a little bit about what we're trying to do to make a difference in life change in the community. And 15 minutes is plenty if that's all you get. Go and sit down with the executive director simply to introduce yourself. You're not asking for a dime. You're simply becoming known relationally. That is not a box you check and there's a result that comes out of that. It is an investment. And again, cultivation is a really big deal here. Sorry to say it so many times, but no, I'm not really sorry. It is very much what this is all about when it comes to annual fund development. A caution about approaching foundations, just an asterisk. The potential ROI when it comes to foundations should be considered. Depending on the foundation, depending on the community, the dollars may not be that large. And you've cultivated it for a while, and the return on investment may be a question. So we're saying foundations are important in annual fund strategy, but just understand that it is possible to allocate too many fundraising resources from your staff in it. Just be aware of that, just to temper all of that. And then we talked about businesses and corporations as the fourth and fifth target markets. Let me just quickly cover both of them simultaneously. Most companies in your community, I don't care where you are, Most companies in your community, at the end of the day, want to be viewed as difference makers in their community. They want to be well regarded. They want to be viewed as philanthropic and good community citizens in most cases. So how do we approach? First of all, look for an internal advocate. It can be challenging to get to a decision maker, particularly in a corporate environment. The executive suite, the corner office may not be the best choice in this case. Who can make introductions? Could be your board. Could be somebody that you know who is a staff member who can introduce you to somebody who's a staff member who can, you get the idea. So look for an internal advocate who believes in your mission and the difference that you make in the community. And you'll notice, by the way, that as I've referred to your mission, your rescue mission, I have yet to say individuals who believe in your programs. Did you catch that nuance? Because what matters here, your programs matter. They are tools and means. But for what? More specifically, why? It's how we began this time together today. It's about kingdom impact. It's about a life at a time. Your why is about participating in the transformation of people's lives and making the community better as a result. That's what we need to be talking about. Well, every company, number two, has a culture, so we need to listen for how to communicate in that culture. I would suspect if you were to go visit 6 of the rescue missions that are represented in this conference, you'd probably find 6 different internal cultures. You may be very common in your mission, but in your place, in your community, it feels just a little bit different place to place. Well, so it is obviously in businesses and corporations. So cultivate relationships through effective communication. Number 3, what about faith-based worldview? It's sad but true that with some companies, with some corporations, if you are aligned with a faith-based missional model, they really don't want any part of that. If you're a church, if you're the Bible, they don't want any part of that. It doesn't make it dismissive. You can't water down your mission statement. God is to be glorified. Amen. In all of this. You can't water it down. And if we walk by faith and not by sight, here's what it says. Wherever there's a closed door, God sees an open one. So stay true to your mission. But just know that could happen. Fourthly, there are, again, as is the case commonly, multiple decision makers, particularly with corporations. I'll say something about this. It is very rare that a business is going to give directly to an organization without thinking in terms of community relations and maybe having somebody who is a direct connection, who's kind of a catalyst in community relations. That could be a designated staff member of a corporation who's charged with that. They may be called the community relations director. Or it could be a small business owner. But community connectedness is the key here in wading through, okay, who's calling the shots here. And then fifthly, just know that when it comes to corporations in particular, this could be a great opportunity for matching gift opportunities. It's a great suggestion to general donors and to mid-level donors that they see if where they work has a matching gift program, for example. I think, for example, I don't know where this comes from here, of a Chick-fil-A franchisee who will give you a certain contribution with the understanding that corporate's going to match it. Those are underutilized forms of giving, just like donor advised funds. So just be attentive that those possibilities are there. So research, where are these companies giving money? What's the history in that regard? Are there relational linkages? Are there matches? A lot of ways that we can take a run at that. Well, those are the markets. Let's dig in a bit as to, okay, beyond the markets, what do we do as far as approaches, methodology? First of all, and there's been an order to what I'm sharing with you today, we determine the markets first, then we talk about what are the best methods to reach those markets. These 5 methods that I'm going to unpack as quickly as I can here are not equal in terms of priority, by the way. Let me just touch base with you on the graphic on the right side. You see the top of the pyramid there speaks of one-to-one. We've talked about that already quite a bit. That's personalized. It's individualized. It's more detailed. Then there is one-to-some. That is where you start getting into tiers of giving. You begin deeper engagement, moving up the pyramid. And then the broader area is the one-to-the-many. And this tends to be the larger percentage of your donor file, your donor base. And the one-to-the-many would include, obviously, your direct mail. It's where we talk about segmentation of donors, where we test and do analysis for the most effective communication. That's that form. Notice that again, though, relational equity is at the top of the pyramid, is listed first. It is a smaller group, but it has significantly more potential in terms of the bottom line for your organization. It's not to negate direct mail, phone, events, digital media, but cultivation, again, is a really big deal. Let's unpack these. First of all, in terms of personal solicitation, this graphic that's on the screen here, there are various iterations of donor cycles, and there's nothing out there good or better or worse. This is a donor cycle that we have utilized in the Timothy Group for many years. Our founder, Pat McLaughlin, founded the firm in 1990, wrote a book called Major Donor Game Plan. If you'd like to have a copy of that book, if you don't have it, stop by the table. I'll be happy to give you a copy of that book. But a lot of it is based on this donor cycle as to the cultivation and personal solicitation. So to unpack that cycle for you really quickly, first of all, don't look at this cycle as a formula. Check all the boxes, and this is going to spit out after the equal sign. Again, it never works like that. But it is an intentional strategic approach. What is that approach? Number one in the donor cycle is research. That's the conducting of a comprehensive donor analysis, and there are some other firms represented here at the conference who do this kind of thing incredibly well. We're involved in it as well, and that is combining quantitative data with qualitative insights to identify major donors and rate them and their potential and how we're going to approach them. Research, that's donor analysis. Another piece in personal solicitation is that gets you into relationship. I guess I've said that a time or two this morning. Crafting personalized engagement for each major donor, planning every step of the cultivation process to build meaningful connections. Thirdly, well, we've got to ask. We've got to request. Solicitation techniques, donor visits. This is about being very confident in asking for gifts. Because we've done our research, we have built relational equity, and now this is an overflow of what we've already got going here as the Lord has blessed us. Fourthly, what about recognition? Obviously, we can never say thank you too often. So donor appreciation programs that demonstrate long-term commitment, impact, these can be, this is the kind of world where you can get into handwritten notes that really make a difference. Fifthly is recruiting, activating your board and your current donors as ambassadors for the rescue mission. That is, your board is not responsible for merely coming to meetings, listening to what the executive director and staff have given them in the agenda, and reacting, enjoying the lunch, and saying, I'll see you again next month. No, your board members must be bought-in ambassadors for the mission. Critical that they're in the game with you with that kind of hard investment. So they leverage, hopefully, their networks to identify new gift prospects. And then reporting. Anything worth doing is worth, if it's a plan, is worth tracking. And that's what this is about. So practices that maintain active engagement and they reduce attrition through meaningful communication and impact reporting. Just know this about that donor cycle. These are principles that should be woven into any donor engagement strategy, and they will be really beneficial. in building a robust annual fund. Again, I told you we were covering the waterfront today at a relatively high level, so hopefully some of this is really helpful. We'd be happy to talk with you about details in your context if that would be helpful to you. Well, let's take a look at an example. See, while you work through the major donor game plan cycle, there should be a way, as I just mentioned, to track activity, especially with major donors. So what do you see on the screen here? Well, what you notice is that, first of all, this is a rating and response sheet per individual major donors or a major donor prospect. What's their preferred name? What type of activity or visit relating to the donor cycle? Where are we with that individual? Who's assigned? The proposed request amount, if there's a designation or a hot button, what does that look like? And what's our strategy? Obviously highly confidential. You're using it internally for the sake of planning. So then there are action steps that are really important to track. And that is, so what is our plan? When are we going to visit this individual? When are we going to call this individual? When are we going to send a letter to the individual? What's the date of that? And when was it done? We know who's accountable. How are we doing? We've got to be really intentional about this kind of thing. So this is one means, and if we can be helpful to you as far as providing these kinds of resources to kind of stir you and move you, just give me a card and let me know, and we'll be happy to help with that. So another thing is a means by which to track is not to the individual, but it's to the effort itself, the major donor cultivation effort. This is pretty straightforward. So for the week of whatever, for the individual who is doing this on behalf of the rescue mission, for that particular week, for this current period of time, how many new phone calls have been made? This will be incredibly valuable, obviously, to executive directors who can't live in this world, but they've got somebody on their staff who's working through it. So telephone calls that are new. What about old calls or no answer calls where we left a message? Personal contacts. What's the total amount of calls? What's our month to date? That kind of thing. What kind of hours have we spent? What kind of commitments have we seen? So again, Ben Franklin was right. To fail to plan is to plan to, the rest, right? So forms like this will really help you as you determine which way you're going with all this. So we have been talking about here the methodology around personal solicitation. The second one that was on an earlier slide is direct mail. Not going to camp here very long. Again, there are some very reputable, fine folks. It's been great to meet some of these folks while I've been here this week who are very involved in the direct mail world and direct response. Detail isn't needed here. Just a few key principles that we have found to be commonly very helpful. One is this: whenever possible, include in your direct mail a message from leadership. Not always, but just understand that whenever possible, include a message from leadership, and you could insert between 1 and 2 and/or, because they really are in tandem, or they could be separate. In your direct mail, a message from leadership, but there's also incredible value, obviously, in stories with photographs, and photos are golden. Thirdly, in your direct mail, remember the balance of emotion and logic. Obviously, people give because they have been touched personally. They have somehow found a point of allegiance, a heartbeat with what it is that you are about. But then there are those individuals, obviously, that want to know, why should I care? What's your impact? What difference are you making? Give me the bottom line. Let me see the numbers. Just understand we've got to provide some for whoever is taking a look at our information. Fourthly, obviously, you got to have a call to action. Sending out a mail just for the sake of mail for information is one thing, but folks have got to have an opportunity to respond, because what you're saying, what's implied in all your direct mail pieces, beyond information, is hopefully there's inspiration. And individuals are looking for ways to align if the heartstrings connect. So how can individuals make a difference personally? That's your call to action, right? Again, they're not supporting an institution. They are personally making a difference. We are doing it together. Yeah. And then fifthly, there's got to be, obviously, with that, a very clear response device. Tear off at the bottom, whatever that looks like. You know those principles in direct mail. And not to slip too deeply into the how you do it in direct mail, but as far as mechanics, but we have found, these may not be secret words, but they're pretty important ones when it comes to direct mail. One of those is the word you, obviously. How can the individual receiving your mail make a difference? They matter. If we only talk about our institution and donors like you do this, it's so incredibly impersonal, quite institutional. Let's talk about we. Secondly, the word because. The reason that word matters is because we clarify our why. It's one thing to do your programs. It's another thing to view your programs as means by which to make a difference. What's the why? You can never remind folks too much about that. This is another one that can't be overstated. Number 3, thank you. As often as you can say it, say it. Fourthly, today. Not everything is urgent, but it is, because at your rescue mission today are individuals who are going to come to what they heard was the mission, the beacon of hope, and they're going to hope you can do something for them today. Don't tell them, go back to the camp and come back next week, kind of thing. You get the idea. You live there. You know it. So we've got to help our donors and prospects understand that there is a degree of urgency, that every day we have an opportunity to touch lives. We have the opportunity. Not the mission has it. We have the opportunity together. And then number 5, join. Obviously, we're talking partnership. So that is, again, versus supporting an institution. There are also some phrases. These are not golden to say, boy, if you put this phrase in there, your numbers are going to go sky high. But it's just, there's spirit and intent offerings. One of those is a phrase like this. Your compassion and unselfish giving will make an eternal difference. That's way better than saying something on the order of, because you give, we are able to. And we help this X number of people because you gave like other donors give. That's transactional. What we're talking about is transformation here. Secondly, because of your gift, together we can. Pretty important kind of phrasing. We're talking about the intersection of our why with our donors. And then you can participate in transforming lives. Now, we know that our Lord brings transformation. But you can participate in the process. You are one of the tools that the Lord brings to the intersection to make a difference in people's lives. Phrasing like this really matters. You get the idea. There are many more options about how to make a heart connection, but promote we. It's a pretty big deal. Let me kind of take a real quick departure and show you a really practical example of how the annual fund can be positioned. Now, this particular example is from Barclay College in Haviland, Kansas. Think of a 4-panel, 8.5 by 11 full bleed brochure, a glossy brochure. And obviously in that, the signature is, this is page 1, that's page 4. What is the first thing that you notice about the photographs? Before you get in the weeds of the information. If your eyes go to photos, what do you see?
In color.
Groups of people, that means?
More than one.
What else do you see?
Success.
Yeah. It makes a difference.
Yeah.
What else do you see? Can you see this very well? It's musical production. So you see engagement, you see the arts, you see not frowning faces up here. I would recommend that you use very few posed photographs anyway, like this one, but one that kind of takes folks onto the campus in this particular case and takes them into the world of the students. Pretty big deal. Well, here are the other pieces that you will see. I'll just point out to you, there's no formula for this. It depends on your context, a place at a time. But what Berkeley College decided to do with this leadership level proposal to their major donors is they wanted to make sure that they understood that this brochure is about an annual fund. This is for this particular fiscal year. They felt that it was important to spotlight their mission, their cornerstone, their why. However you position your why, I would suggest to you that your why for your ministry needs to be somewhere early. Folks don't need to miss that. Because we have a bias to action as leaders, it can be our natural tendency